Standing before the funeral portrait of my mother-in-law, watching the thick smoke of the incense curl up and blur her pale, lifeless face, I felt absolutely no ripple of sympathy in my heart. Exactly 3 days ago, this very woman had personally served me a bowl of organic bone broth, spiked with a heavy grade of liquid sedatives. She had already unlocked the back door and negotiated a price with 5 hardened cartel enforcers, paving the way for them to march right into my bedroom and violate me. Me, a daughter-in-law carrying the bloodline of her family. She wanted to record that vile video to blackmail me into handing over my entire estate, a corporate empire worth tens of millions of dollars. But she severely underestimated me. In that twilight space between consciousness and extreme sedation, I used my last ounce of fading strength to bite down on my own tongue, using the sheer pain to wake myself up. And I did something that, even now when I think back on it, I still consider the most absolute and fair arrangement of karma. I knocked out her precious golden child, her daughter. I stripped her naked, threw her onto that bed in my place, and locked the heavy oak door from the outside. The next morning, when my mother-in-law gleefully kicked the door open intending to gloat over the footage, what struck her eyes was her own flesh and blood lying battered, shattered, and utterly destroyed on the floor. Her blood-curdling scream tore through that morning, fueled by too much panic, too much humiliation, and unbearable remorse. Driven completely insane, she bit her own tongue and committed suicide right on the spot. People say this family is cursed with some wicked hex, but no, there is no curse at all. There is only the bottomless greed of humans digging their own graves. Let me tell you how this whole nightmare began. I am Lauren, 32 years old, the CEO of a nationwide premium organic food distribution network. I was born on third base, the only daughter of a prominent old-money business family in New York. When my parents passed away in a horrific multi-car pileup on the interstate 4 years ago, the entire family empire fell into my hands. Right in the middle of my most unstable, grieving, and vulnerable period, Tyler appeared. He was a civil engineer with a gentle, scholarly look, soft-spoken, and eyes that always seemed to shine with sincerity. Tyler was always there for me, worrying about my every meal and my sleep, never bringing up the massive wealth gap between us. He once stood in the pouring rain in Manhattan for 3 hours just to buy me the specific clam chowder I loved. I believed him. I mistakenly thought he was the true love of my life. I decided to marry him, completely ignoring the warnings from my friends on Wall Street. On our wedding day, I moved Tyler into my 5,000-square-foot estate in an exclusive, gated community in Westchester County. Not long after, Tyler softly asked for my permission to bring his mother, Martha, and his younger sister, Chloe, from their rural trailer park in Ohio to live with us, claiming it would make the big house feel more like a home. At the time, I thought simply that, as a wife, taking care of my mother-in-law was a given, and adding a few people to this massive, echoing estate would not hurt. But I was dead wrong. The arrival of his mother and sister was the beginning of a living hell that I never saw coming. Wow, this house is so huge, it is exactly like a palace. Chloe, look, from now on our lives are changed. We do not have to live in that rotting tin can anymore. Look at Lauren's closet, Mom. It is full of Chanel and Hermes. How can she even use all of those? Tomorrow I am going to borrow a few to go out with my friends. Since we are family now, her stuff is our stuff, right, Mom? Help yourself. Your brother is the master of this house now. When a woman gets married, her assets should be managed by her husband. Soon enough, I will tell Tyler to take over all the accounts. If you let a woman hold the power, the house will fall into ruin. That was the conversation I accidentally overheard. On the very first day, they stepped foot into my house. At that moment, I just thought they came from poverty, saw a massive estate, and let jealousy make them say tasteless things. I chose to let it go. I provided Martha with expensive organic supplements, paid Chloe's tuition at NYU, and bought her a BMW to commute easily. Every month, I gave Martha a $5,000 allowance for her personal spending. That was not even counting the household expenses, which I handled entirely on my own. But human greed has no bottom. The more they received, the more they considered it my absolute obligation. The climax happened recently when Tyler's attitude began to shift. He started coming home late, reeking of whiskey. Every time I asked, he would lash out, claiming he was stressed from work and difficult contractors. He began dropping hints that I should transfer a portion of my company shares into his name so he could have a voice in front of the board of directors, so no one would look down on him as a leech living off his wife. I am a businesswoman. I loved my husband, but I was not so blind as to hand over my parents' legacy to someone with zero executive management skills. I politely declined. And from the day I refused, the atmosphere in the house started to become suffocating, thick with a smoldering, silent resentment. The storm hit on a Friday night. A massive thunderstorm was dumping rain all over New York, with thunder shaking the sky. That afternoon, Tyler called me. Lauren, I have to fly out to Chicago immediately to handle a crisis at a construction site. I probably will not be back for 3 days. You stay home, make sure you eat well and rest. Mom will be there to take care of you. I love you. I suspected nothing. I just murmured an agreement and hung up. Dinner that night was just me, Martha, and Chloe. The housekeeper had been given the weekend off by Martha that morning under the pretext of a family emergency. The massive estate suddenly became terrifyingly quiet. The dinner was quite silent until Martha brought out a steaming bowl of artisanal bone broth from the kitchen. Lauren, eat all of this. I have noticed you look so pale lately. You have too much work, and being 3 months pregnant, you need nourishment. I simmered this all afternoon. It is top-grade marrow, specially ordered. I looked at the bowl. A faint, savory aroma drifted up. Martha's sudden attentiveness caught me off guard. Normally, she never cared for me like this. Not to mention, she always showed passive-aggressive resentment toward the baby in my belly because she desperately wanted me to birth a male heir, while the doctor had already diagnosed we were having a girl. Just leave it there, Mom. I will eat it later. I am too full from dinner to swallow anything else right now. Oh, please, sister-in-law, stop acting so high and mighty. My mom slaved over that broth all afternoon, putting in all that effort, and you will not even eat it while it is hot. If you let it get ice cold, people will say you look down on my mom's cooking. Chloe is right. Eat it to make me happy. Do not waste my good intentions. You have to drink it while it is hot for it to work. Their relentless pressuring made it impossible for me to refuse any further. Furthermore, I genuinely did not think a mother-in-law could pull a depraved stunt right inside her own home. I picked up the spoon and brought the broth to my mouth. The taste was rich, but for some reason, there was a slight, bitter aftertaste in the back of my throat. I figured Martha might have added some herbal roots, so I paid it no mind. I finished the entire bowl under the unblinking, intense stares of the mother and daughter. After eating, I excused myself to go upstairs and rest. I barely made it to the 10th step of the grand staircase when a violent wave of dizziness hit me. The entire house spun before my eyes. My arms and legs turned to jelly, entirely drained of strength. My heart pounded furiously against my ribs, and my breathing grew heavy and labored. I desperately gripped the oak banister, but my eyelids began to droop. A wave of sleep crashed over me so fast and so hard that it was undeniably unnatural. This was not the fatigue of pregnancy. This was the effect of a drug. I vaguely realized the horrifying truth. I staggered into my master bedroom, reaching for the smartphone on my vanity to dial 911, but before my fingers could brush the screen, I collapsed onto the bed. Everything around me faded into absolute darkness. I do not know how much time passed. I felt my body weighed down as if tied to boulders. My consciousness was suspended in the gray area between being awake and being comatose. I could not open my eyes, and my limbs were completely paralyzed. But my hearing slowly began to function again. I heard footsteps, the click of the door unlocking, and whispering voices right next to my bed. This drug absorbs fast. She is already dead to the world. Chloe, check if she knows anything. Shake her. Lauren? Lauren? She is sleeping like the dead, Mom. The sedatives Tyler gave us are the real deal. I pinched her hard and she did not even flinch. Tyler gave us. Chloe's sentence hit my brain like a direct surge of electricity. Tyler, my husband, the man supposedly on a business trip in Chicago, was the one who supplied the heavy sedatives to his mother and sister to poison me. My heart felt as if someone was crushing it in their fist. That ultimate betrayal hurt far worse than any poison. I tried my hardest to bite my jaw shut so I would not make a sound. I knew if I revealed I was slowly waking up, I would die immediately. I had to keep faking unconsciousness to hear what these demons were planning next. Good. Did you call Sal's guys yet? Tell them to come through the back door. I left the key out for them. I texted them. They said they would be here in 15 minutes. Mom, did you think this through? What if she wakes up halfway? Those cartel guys are brutal. If she dies, we do not get the money. You are so stupid. Tyler said this drug knocks people out for at least 8 hours. Just let those 5 thugs into the room to clean her out. Remember to set up the 4K camera on top of that dresser. Make sure the focus is sharp. Tomorrow morning, when she wakes up and sees her body shattered, plus this filthy video, she will have to get on her knees and beg our family. At that point, whether she wants to hand over the company and the deeds or not, she will have to. If she refuses, I will leak this video onto the internet to humiliate her, completely destroying her reputation as a hotshot CEO. A woman who has been violated and is pregnant will not have the strength to fight back. Mom, you are brilliant. Truly, with age comes wisdom. But what about the baby in her belly? Even better, those thugs play rough. If she miscarries, it saves us the trouble. I never liked that pregnancy anyway. The doctor said it was a girl. What use is a girl taking up space in this house? Once Tyler has the money and the power, he will have no shortage of women willing to give him a son. Go out to the living room and keep watch. When they arrive, lead them straight up here. I am going back to my room. Consider tonight as me taking my sleeping pills and knowing absolutely nothing. Tomorrow morning, I will wake up and play the part of the heartbroken mother-in-law. Every single word from their mouths felt like poison-tipped knives shredding my soul. Their cowardly cruelty was beyond the imagination of any normal human being. They did not just want to steal my wealth. They wanted to destroy my dignity. They wanted to kill the unborn child in my womb. And the mastermind pulling all the strings, the director of this cold-blooded play, was none other than the husband I shared my bed with. A wave of vengeful fury erupted inside me like a volcano. The blood in my veins boiled. I could not die here. I could not let them achieve their goal. I had to live. I had to get my revenge. The footsteps of Chloe and Martha faded away. Then came the loud thud of my bedroom door shutting. The room plunged back into darkness. I knew I had less than 15 minutes before those predatory thugs showed up. My body was still heavy as lead, the sedative still coursing strongly through my system. I clenched my teeth, summoning the entire willpower of a mother protecting the child in her womb. I bit down fiercely on the tip of my tongue. The metallic taste of blood flooded my mouth, and a blinding, agonizing pain shot straight to my brain. That pain was the only antidote I had. It helped me regain a sliver of motor control. I painfully hitched my body inch by inch toward the edge of the bed. My legs could not stand firm, and I crashed heavily onto the carpeted floor. Do not give up, I told myself. I dragged myself centimeter by centimeter across the floor toward the door. The sky outside was still flashing with lightning. The dim light from the strikes filtered through the window, illuminating my pale, sweat-drenched face in the large floor mirror. I had never seen myself look so pathetic, but in those eyes, fear had vanished, replaced entirely by a blazing inferno of hatred. 15 minutes. The countdown had begun. I knew that if I opened the door to run away now, with this shattered body, I could never escape the estate. Chloe was standing guard in the living room, and 5 thugs were approaching from the back. I would be caught instantly. I had to find another way, a more permanent, far more ruthless solution to give them exactly what they intended for me. I leaned my back against the door, gasping down mouthfuls of the freezing night air. My eyes accidentally landed on the tiny camera Chloe had sneakily placed on top of the wardrobe. The little red LED light was blinking continuously, indicating it was recording. A crazy, bold, and brutal idea flashed through my mind. They wanted to film me being violated. They wanted a victim on that bed. Fine. I would give them a victim, but that victim would absolutely not be me. I crawled closer to the door crack and pressed my ear against it. The booming thunder outside drowned out most of the noise in the house. I raised my hand and, using the very last bit of strength I possessed, slowly twisted the lock. A very soft click sounded, and I cracked the door open just a fraction. Down in the living room, Chloe was sprawled on the sofa, scrolling on her phone, wearing her AirPods, her foot tapping along to the heavy bass of her EDM track. She was too overconfident, too confident in the dose Tyler had provided. Little did Chloe know that the Grim Reaper was standing right above her head. I knew this was my only chance. If I failed, I would lose everything. If I succeeded, I would send their entire family straight to hell. I clenched my trembling hand, preparing for a life-for-a-life exchange right in the shadows of this very estate. Darkness wrapped around the massive house. Only the occasional lightning flash from outside cut through the reinforced glass windows, highlighting the cold, sharp lines of the marble staircase. I stood leaning against the bedroom door, my entire body drenched in cold sweat. My legs were shaking violently, partly because the sedative was still wreaking havoc in my bloodstream, and partly because my uterus was experiencing tight, rigid contractions. I knew my time was down to mere minutes. The hardened thugs Martha hired were on their way. They were inhumane monsters who only cared about money. And tonight, their target was to destroy me. I bit my tongue one more time. Blood welled up again, the coppery scent rushing to my brain. The bone-deep pain kept me tethered to my last shred of sanity. I told myself I was not allowed to collapse. The little girl in my belly needed me to protect her. I reached out and grabbed a solid cast bronze decorative statue resting on a display stand in the hallway. The statue weighed a ton and was freezing to the touch. But right now, it was my only weapon, the only life jacket for me and my child. I tiptoed down the stairs, one agonizing step at a time. Every step was physical torture. The drug made my muscles feel like jelly, and my vision occasionally blurred out. The stone steps in front of me kept swaying, as if trying to buck me off. Down in the living room, the pale light from the television cast a sickly glow over Chloe. She was lounging on the imported Italian leather sofa I had bought, legs crossed, completely immersed in her own world, swiping relentlessly on her phone. She was probably texting the thugs to hurry up. Chloe had no idea that death was taking slow, deliberate steps right behind her, taking forever. These guys are so slow. I said 15 minutes and they are still not here. I need to text them again. After this is done, I am taking that pink Chanel bag from Lauren's closet. Tomorrow she will be half dead anyway. She will not have the mind to care about designer brands. What a stupid rich girl. Does not even know how to protect her wealth. Mom and I played her so easily. Once Tyler gets the estate deeds, I am making him buy me a new convertible. Chloe's muttered words landed clearly in my ears. My absolute towering fury transformed into a supernatural strength surging through my body. My humanity had dried up. My patience was gone. The demon inside me had truly been awakened by them. I stepped right up behind the sofa. A roll of thunder masked my weak footsteps. Chloe was still busy typing, a triumphant smirk on her lips. Without a single second of hesitation, without a single ounce of mercy, I swung the heavy bronze statue high and brought it down violently on the back of Chloe's neck. The strike was incredibly decisive and accurate. Chloe did not even have the time to let out a single cry. Her body jerked once before collapsing onto the sofa. The phone flew from her hand, dropping onto the sheepskin rug, the screen still lit up with her chat log with the thugs. I stood there panting, my chest heaving, sweat pouring down like rain. The hand holding the statue trembled, but my eyes were as cold as glacial ice. I reached out and checked the pulse on Chloe's neck. She had simply passed out from the blunt force trauma to her pressure point, but she was not dead. That was more than enough for the next phase of my plan. I knew I had to move fast. The thugs could show up at the back door at any second. I grabbed Chloe by the armpits and, using the absolute desperate strength of a mother fighting for life, dragged her dead weight off the sofa. The weight of an unconscious adult is horrifyingly heavy, especially for a woman 8 months pregnant and freshly drugged. Every stair I dragged Chloe up felt like my lungs were tearing and I was about to collapse. But the image of that spiked broth, the image of my treacherous husband, and the vile words of Martha and Chloe kept flashing in my mind, fueling me with an invisible energy. Reaching the master bedroom, I dumped Chloe's limp body onto the pristine white mattress. A sharp pain shot up from my lower abdomen, forcing me to grip the bedpost tightly. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the uterine contraction to pass. I muttered to the child inside me, "Please stay strong for Mommy. I promise to protect you. I will make the people who want to hurt you pay a terrible price." Once the pain subsided, I tore every piece of clothing off Chloe's body, tossing the garments across the floor. I ripped off the bedsheets and crumpled the pillows to stage a chaotic scene. The tiny camera Chloe had placed on the wardrobe was still flashing its red recording light. I smiled a freezing smile. This very camera would be the perfect witness, capturing entirely the theatrical play they had directed, only to feed their own daughter into the tiger's den. With everything set, I gathered a few of my own clothes, grabbed my phone, my master keys, and a platinum bank card, stuffing them into a coat pocket. I stepped out of the room and used the master key to double-lock the heavy oak door from the outside. This door had a specialized anti-theft system. Without a key, it was absolutely impossible to open from the inside. Chloe was sealed in there, ready to become the perfect prey for the pack of wild beasts approaching. I did not run out the main gate, knowing the neighborhood security cameras could capture me. I crept down the service stairs into the underground parking garage. In the damp, dark basement, I crawled into the back seat of my 7-seater Range Rover, pulling a thin blanket over myself to hide. From here, I opened the smart home security app on my phone. I had secretly installed this internal camera system months ago when I first started suspecting the sneaky behavior of Martha and Chloe, and they had absolutely no idea it existed. Barely 5 minutes after I settled into the darkness of the SUV, I saw through my phone screen the back door of the estate being pushed open. 5 massive men, covered in tattoos and wearing soaking wet rain jackets, stepped inside. They glanced around the kitchen and then headed straight up the second-floor stairs. Their movements were decisive, proving Martha had given them a thorough floor plan beforehand. Their heavy boots thudding against the marble steps sounded like hammer strikes against the silent night. Damn, rich people really live differently. Place is huge. The old lady said her daughter-in-law is in the master bedroom at the end of the hall. Keep it quiet. The old lady is sleeping on the first floor. Do not wake her up and cause trouble. Do not worry, boss. The old lady was clear. The sedatives are heavy. That girl will not wake up even if the sky falls. She said to play rough. Make her miscarry if possible. Get a clear shot of her face on video so the old lady has evidence to extort the company out of her. She paid half the deposit. When we are done, she wires the rest. Tonight is our lucky night, boys. We get paid and get to have fun with a high-class CEO. The door is locked, boss. Cannot open it, you idiot. The old lady said she left a spare key under the welcome mat. Find it. Hurry up so we can get this done and get out. Hanging around in a storm like this is bad news. Through the screen, I watched the thug flip the mat and retrieve the spare key I had deliberately left right where Martha had planned. The bedroom door swung open, and they poured inside like a pack of starving hyenas finding meat. The door slammed shut. Chaotic noises, crude laughter, and sounds of a struggle began to echo faintly through the thick wood. Chloe might have still been knocked out from my blow, or she might have woken up only to have her mouth covered and completely pinned down. These men were paid to violate the woman on that bed. They did not care who she was or what her face looked like in a dark room lit only by a dim nightlight. They only knew to execute the cruel orders of the person who hired them. Curled up inside my car in the freezing garage, I clenched my hands tightly together. I did not shed a single tear. My heart was completely empty, as cold as an iceberg. Those who sow the wind must reap the whirlwind. The atrocities they wanted to bring down on me and my unborn baby were now being suffered by their own blood. I closed my eyes, resting my head against the leather seat, trying to regulate my breathing. I had to conserve my strength, because when the sun came up, a much grander, far more brutal play would truly begin. I was going to show Tyler and Martha that messing with me was the biggest and final mistake of their filthy lives. Throughout the agonizingly long night, the storm outside never ceased, just as the tempest inside this luxurious estate reached its peak. I stayed curled under the back seats, occasionally checking my phone screen. The lingering sedatives still made my body ache, but my mind was terrifyingly sharp. At exactly 4 a.m, through the camera feed, I saw the master bedroom door crack open. The 5 thugs filed out, adjusting their clothes, looking smug and satisfied. They casually walked down the stairs, headed straight out the back door, and vanished into the blinding wind and rain of the night. They had successfully fulfilled the evil contract Martha assigned them. It was just a pity that their victim was her own precious golden daughter. Around 7 a.m, the storm finally broke. The first rays of the new day's sun filtered through the basement vents. I knew it was time for the curtain to fall. Through my screen, I saw Martha's bedroom door on the first floor open. She stepped out wearing a buttery silk nightgown, her hair neatly combed. Her face radiated an unhideable triumphant glee. She stretched and peered into the living room, looking for Chloe. Where did Chloe go so early? I told her to go to sleep after keeping watch for Sal's guys. Probably crawled into her room and slept like a log. Whatever, let me go upstairs and see what state my precious daughter-in-law is in now. With the thunder roaring all night, even if she screamed her throat raw, no one would have heard her. Thinking about that arrogant CEO who always looked down on me, now shattered and crawling on the floor begging for my mercy, it just makes me feel so good. Your money, your company, your real estate. Today I am going to make you vomit it all up. My son Tyler will rule this empire now. Let us see who dares call him a leech ever again, she muttered to herself, every toxic word dripping with a disgusting level of satisfaction. She leisurely walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of warm water, drank it down, adjusted her gown, and slowly strutted up the stairs. She had no idea that every step she took was a step closer to the gates of hell. I held my breath, watching the screen. The master bedroom door had been left slightly ajar since the thugs left. Martha stood in front of the door, deliberately clearing her throat loudly. adopting the authoritative stance of a mother-in-law about to catch her promiscuous daughter-in-law in the act. Lauren, what kind of games are you playing in there with the door wide open? A married woman letting strange men into the house in the middle of the night? Get out here right now, as she yelled. She violently kicked the bedroom door wide open and stepped in. And then, the sight inside hit her eyes, making her stop dead in her tracks. My luxurious bedroom now looked like a bloody battlefield. Furniture was smashed and overturned. The expensive bedding was shredded and thrown across the floor. The smell of liquor, sweat, and the coppery stench of blood blended together into a thick, nauseating atmosphere. On the massive bed in the center of the room, a naked female body covered in violent bruises, bite marks, and scratches lay face down, completely motionless. Tangled hair hid her entire face. The bright red bloodstains pooling on the white mattress were deeply haunting. Oh my, how disgusting. Sal's boys really do play rough, beating you into this state? Serves you right, you little brat, that will teach you to look down on your mother-in-law. She showed absolutely no sympathy or fear. On the contrary, she cackled with laughter, stepped closer to the wardrobe, and reached up to grab the tiny camera. She pressed play to review the footage, muttering praises for her own genius. Only after confirming the video was perfectly saved did she casually approach the bed. She used the tip of her toe to nudge the leg of the motionless body, her voice shrill and venomous. Hey, daughter-in-law, wake up. You have slept enough. Serving 5 men last night must have been exhausting, huh? You are so talented. Pregnant with the Hawthorne family's grandchild, and you bring men home to do dirty deeds. I have full, high-definition video proof right here, so what are you going to do? If you do not want me to upload this to the internet for the whole of New York to see your face, you better be smart and immediately sign the papers transferring the entire company over to my son Tyler. And that cursed fetus in your belly? Given how rough they were last night, it probably miscarried. Good riddance. My family does not harbor the cursed spawn of a promiscuous woman. Get up and sign the papers. The body on the bed remained dead silent, without a single reaction. Martha started losing her patience. She stepped right up to the edge of the bed, reached out, grabbed the tangled mess of hair hiding the victim's face, and violently yanked the head up. I told you to get up! The words choked in her throat. The camera slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor. The face she had just yanked back did not belong to Lauren Kensington, the daughter-in-law she despised. It was the face of Chloe, her own golden, flesh-and-blood daughter that she had birthed. Chloe's face was battered and swollen, her lips torn and oozing blood. Her eyes were rolled back, white and lifeless. Across her neck and chest were bite marks and severe bruises from a savage assault. Chloe had endured a night of absolute, horrific hell, violated and trampled by the very men her mother had paid to be there. Chloe! Oh my God! No, this cannot be! Martha's scream was ear-splitting, shredding the morning silence. It was no longer the scream of a human being, but the roar of a mortally wounded animal in peak agony. She threw herself onto the bed, wrapping her arms around her shattered daughter, her trembling hands pawing at Chloe's bloody face. She tore at her own hair, her eyes wide with terror and total insanity. Chloe, my baby, why is it you? Why did this happen? Those bastards, those animals, what did they do to you? Where is Lauren? Where is she? Oh God, I killed you. Chloe, Mommy ruined you. I ruined you. The horrific truth completely crushed the last shred of the wicked woman's sanity. She understood everything. She understood that the toxic trap she set to destroy me had snapped shut on her own daughter. The vile video she meant to use to extort me was a film of her own daughter being gang-raped by 5 men. The crime she directed had turned around and ripped her to pieces. She held onto Chloe, wailing hysterically. The sounds tearing from her throat were chilling, choked with a regret and despair that knew no bottom. I am sorry. I am so sorry, Chloe. Give her back to me. Tyler, help your sister. Oh God, it is karma. It is karma. I sat in my car in the basement, watching the screen without an ounce of pity. This was the price she had to pay. This was instant, brutal, yet perfectly fair karma. If I had not been alert enough last night, if I had not bitten my tongue to stay awake, the person lying on that bed, shattered, miscarrying, and violated, would have been me. Her pain today was only a fraction of the pain she intended to inflict on me. On the screen, Martha completely lost her mind. She let go of Chloe's body, stumbled back a few steps, and clutched her head. Her eyes were wild, staring blankly into the void. She babbled meaningless sounds, her body convulsing. The total humiliation, the ultimate regret of destroying her daughter's life. And the vision of that video being exposed suffocated her mind. In a moment of total psychosis, unable to face the sickening reality of her own crime, Martha tilted her head back toward the ceiling, opened her mouth as wide as she could, and clamped her jaws down with all her might. Fresh blood sprayed from her mouth, splattering dark red across the white sheets. She staggered backward, clutching her throat as it fountained blood and foam, then collapsed onto the floor right next to the bed where Chloe lay unconscious. Her body twitched a few times. Her eyes, rolled back in pure terror and resentment, stared blankly as she went completely still. Martha had ended her own filthy life by biting her tongue at the very crime scene she had created. The bedroom fell into a terrifying silence. The heavy stench of fresh blood mixed with the smell of death and disgrace. Two bodies, one of a suicide attacker, one of a ruined victim, lying side by side like the most brutal caricature of karma. The bloody play they had so carefully orchestrated had ended in a way no one in the Hawthorne family could have ever predicted. I took a deep breath, turned off my phone screen, and slipped it into my coat. It was done. The demons had paid their price. But the mastermind pulling the strings, the coward who supplied the sedatives and directed everything from afar, was Tyler, still roaming free. This play was not over yet. I opened the car door and stepped out of the dark garage. The morning air after the storm was crisp and cool, a total contrast to the rotting horror inside that estate. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. My voice instantly shifted, trembling, panicking, and sobbing. I stepped into the role of the frail, terrified wife who had just barely escaped the Grim Reaper. Hello, 911? Help me, please help me. I am Lauren Kensington, the owner of the estate at 15 Oakwood Drive. Last night, a gang of armed robbers broke into my house. They drugged me. I was so terrified I crawled under my car in the garage and hid all night. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are still upstairs. I heard screaming and smashing. It was horrifying. Please send officers to save my family. I am so scared. Hanging up, I leaned against the wall, a cold smirk pulling at the corner of my lips. The next act was ready. My dearest husband, take your time enjoying the surprise gift I prepared for you when you return from your business trip. The real war officially begins now. Every cent of my wealth, every drop of my sweat, and my purity do not even dream of taking a single dime. Barely 20 minutes after my emergency call, the wail of police sirens tore through the quiet neighborhood. Red and blue lights flashed against the wet brick walls. 4 squad cars screeched to a halt at the gates, and dozens of NYPD officers breached the property, weapons drawn. I stayed huddled under the car, deliberately messing up my hair, ripping the sleeve of my coat, and scratching my arm until it bled. When a flashlight beam swept across the garage windows, I banged desperately on the glass, crying out for help. Help me! I am in here! Please help me! The car door was yanked open. 2 officers reached out to help me down. I faked my legs giving out, collapsing into their arms, my whole body shaking violently like a wounded bird. I wailed, tears streaming down my face, perfectly playing the role of a pregnant woman who had just survived the most horrific shock of her life. The police quickly secured the scene. A unit escorted me to the downstairs living room and wrapped a foil blanket around my shoulders. Minutes later, the radio of the crime scene commander crackled urgently from the second floor. Command, we have 2 victims in the master bedroom. The scene is extremely chaotic. Massive amounts of blood. 1 elderly female victim is confirmed deceased. Preliminary cause appears to be a self-inflicted bitten tongue. 1 younger female victim is in critical condition, showing signs of severe sexual assault and blunt force trauma, requesting a bus immediately. Sitting in the living room hearing those cold reports from the radio, I buried my face in my hands and sobbed loudly. But behind my fingers, my eyes were bone-dry and sharp as a scalpel. The script Martha, Chloe, and Tyler wrote had completely derailed, and the poisoned arrow they fired had U-turned right into their own hearts. Half an hour later, an ambulance arrived, sirens blaring. A stretcher was rushed down the stairs. On the stark white gurney lay Chloe. She was completely wrapped in blankets, exposing only a swollen, deformed face and eyes staring blankly into space. She was not dead, but the rest of her life would be a fate worse than death. Martha's body was taken out shortly after for the coroner. A detective approached me, his voice calm and professional. He asked for emergency contact info for my family. Trembling, I recited Tyler's phone number. The detective put it on speaker. The line rang, and Tyler picked up very quickly. Hello, who is this? I'm on a job site, make it quick. Hello, are you Tyler Hawthorne? Husband of Lauren Kensington at 15 Oakwood Drive? We are the NYPD. A severe home invasion occurred at your residence last night. We need you to return to New York immediately to cooperate. You said what? A home invasion? Robbers? Is my wife okay? She is pregnant. You have to protect my wife. Hearing Tyler's voice, drowning in fake panic and worry, I almost burst out laughing. His acting was impeccable. If I were the Lauren from yesterday, I might have been moved to tears by his boundless love. But now, I knew perfectly well that beneath that anxiety was pure, triumphant glee. He was absolutely certain the shattered woman on that bed was me, and his extortion plot was a massive success. He was playing the busy husband, completely unaware of the tragedy that befell his wife. Your wife, Mrs. Kensington, managed to escape and is physically unharmed. However, your mother and sister were attacked. Your mother, Martha, is deceased, and Chloe is being rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Please book the earliest flight back. The line went dead silent. A full 10 seconds of absolute nothingness. I could picture Tyler's face at that exact moment. It must have been completely twisted, drained of every drop of blood. The triumph he had just tasted was pulverized. The dead and the crippled were not his rich wife, but his own mother and sister. Are you joking? My mom, my sister? How is that possible? No. I am coming back right now. I will fly back immediately. Tyler hung up abruptly. I continued to cover my face and cry, feeding the police a flawless script. I claimed that after eating the broth my mother-in-law made, my stomach hurt, so I went downstairs for medicine. I heard the back door being pried open and saw tattooed men with knives. Terrified, I sneaked down the service stairs to the garage and hid under my car. Because my phone was upstairs, I could not call 911 until morning. The police took meticulous notes. The living room showed no signs of a search. The neighborhood cameras confirmed I never left the property. My story was airtight. Early that afternoon, Tyler appeared at the precinct where I was waiting. He burst into the room like a madman, clothes disheveled, hair a mess, his eyes bloodshot. Seeing me, he froze for a second. The look in his eyes was a chaotic mix of terror, confusion, suspicion, and heavily suppressed rage. He walked over and grabbed my shoulders tightly. Lauren, are you okay? What? What happened? Why Mom and Chloe? Who were those robbers? What did they take? I burst into tears, burying my head into his chest. My crocodile tears soaked right through his dress shirt. I cried and weakly pounded his chest. Tyler, I was so scared. They broke in. If I had not gone downstairs for my stomachache, I would be dead. Tyler, your mom died so horribly. And Chloe. The doctors said she suffered severe internal injuries and her mind is completely shattered. They were not human, Tyler. They were monsters. Tyler held me tight, but I could feel his entire body go stiff, tense as a wire. He breathed heavily. The lead detective walked in and dropped a file on the table. Mr. Hawthorne, condolences to your family. We are actively hunting the suspects. However, there is a very suspicious element here. Crime scene confirms absolutely no valuables were stolen. The safe, cash, and jewelry are untouched. The intruders had only one singular motive: sexual assault. It is highly likely this was not a random robbery, but a targeted, personal hit. Does your family have any disputes or outside debts? The detective's words hit Tyler like a sledgehammer. He stumbled backward, his arms dropping to his sides. His face went from pale to ash gray. A personal hit? Debts? He knew exactly who those thugs were. They were the men his mother hired. But why did they not touch me? Why target Chloe? Why did the plan change? He stared at me, his eyes trying to pierce my soul for an answer. But I just widened my tear-filled eyes, looking back at him with pure, innocent terror. I knew that from this moment on, Tyler would live in agonizing suspicion and paranoia until he went insane. My play had only just begun. After finishing with the police, I cited severe mental trauma and refused to return to that blood-stained estate. I moved into a luxury penthouse in Tribeca, another property under my name that Tyler's family knew nothing about. Tyler used the excuse of staying at the hospital to handle his mother's autopsy paperwork and monitor Chloe, who was now under strict suicide watch in the psychiatric ward. He pretended to be busy and grieving, but I knew he was terrified to face me. He was scared I knew the truth, scared I would rip his mask off. Sitting in my secure penthouse, I immediately called Harrison. Harrison was my brilliant COO, mentored by my late father since he was a poor college student. Loyal, Hyper-intelligent and razor-sharp, Harrison was my right hand. Receiving my call, he arrived within the hour. Seeing my exhausted appearance but ice-cold eyes, Harrison knew something catastrophic had happened. "Harrison, I need you to use every contact you have to run a deep-dive investigation into Tyler's finances and social connections over the last 6 months. Dig as deep as you can. Do not miss a single detail, including underground poker rings or loan sharks." "Lauren, what happened? Was Tyler involved with the estate attack?" I smiled a bitter but ruthless smile. I gave Harrison a rapid summary of that night, from the spiked broth, the overheard conversation, to the body swap. Hearing it, Harrison clenched his fists, veins popping on his forehead. "Those absolute sociopaths. Lauren, do not worry. I will turn New York upside down to find his true motive. I do not believe a leech like him would have the guts to pull a hit like this unless someone was backing him or he was backed into a corner." 2 days passed. I locked myself in the penthouse, completely isolated from the world. Tyler texted me a few times, hollow, fake check-ins, saying he was in agony over his mother and sister. I did not reply. I just stared at my phone waiting for Harrison's results. On the evening of the second day, Harrison returned with a thick folder. His face was dark, his eyes furious. "Lauren, look at this. Tyler is not just a traitor. He is drowning in debt. An absolute coward. His hard-working engineer act was completely fake." I took the folder, flipping through the pages. Blazing red numbers hit my eyes. It turned out that for the past year, every time Tyler claimed to be on a business trip, he was actually at underground poker rings in Atlantic City and illicit casinos. He gambled like an addict, taking massive losses. At first, he quietly drained his own small engineering firm. When it went bankrupt, he went to the mob. Compound interest piled up. Tyler's current debt to a mob syndicate that ran the casinos had hit $5 million. This syndicate was run by a notorious, brutal boss named Sal the Scar Russo. They sent an ultimatum to Tyler a week ago. If he did not pay the $5 million, they would chop both his hands off and show up at your corporate headquarters to burn his life down. Tyler was backed into a corner. That is why he came up with this monstrous plan. I dropped the folder on the coffee table. My blood boiled. Everything was crystal clear now. The 5 thugs that night were Sal Russo's enforcers. They were not just hired by Martha to assault me. They came as debt collectors. Tyler made a deal with them. They assault me, record it, and then Tyler uses the video to blackmail me into signing over the food distribution empire and the real estate to him. Once he had my assets, he would easily pay the $5 million debt. The rest, he and his family would keep to live like royalty. 1 stone, 2 birds. Wiping his mob debt and stealing his wife's legacy. He called himself my husband, yet he was ready to throw me to absolute garbage to be tortured. He wanted to use my pain and degradation to buy his own peace and wealth. Vile, cowardly. Words do not exist to describe Tyler Hawthorne anymore. I took a deep breath, suppressing the bile rising in my throat. Harrison, compile all his bank statements, the IOUs with his signature, photos of him at the casinos, and everything connecting him to Sal Russo. Keep it strictly encrypted. We are not going to the police with this just yet. If we do, he just goes to jail for gambling fraud. That is too easy. I want him destroyed. I want him to lose everything, to be hunted by the very mobsters he hired. I want to watch him crawl at my feet and swallow the ultimate humiliation. "What are you going to do?" Harrison asked. "Tyler is like a cornered rat right now. I am worried he will do something desperate." I placed a hand over my pregnant belly, smiling a smile that even I found chilling. He wanted to play the extortion game, force me to sign over the company, right? Fine. I will put on a show for him. Tomorrow is his mother's funeral. I will show up as the traumatized, broken wife who needs a strong shoulder to lean on. I will let him think he fooled me, let him walk confidently right into the trap I am setting. Harrison, prep a transfer of executive power of attorney for the company. But listen closely. It is only temporary operational control. Embed it with legal financial traps that only I have the authority to resolve. I am going to turn him into a puppet CEO carrying a mountain of ghost debt. I understand. You want to use his own weapon against him. Let us see how he handles Sal Russo when all he has is an empty CEO title. Exactly. Let the demons tear each other apart. Tomorrow's funeral will be the perfect stage to launch this counterattack. Tyler, you owe me and my child a life. I am going to make you pay for it with the rest of your miserable existence. The city funeral home was drenched in a dull, depressing gray. Black and white ribbons hung limply in the cold wind. I stepped out of my luxury SUV, wearing a tailored black morning dress. I wore no makeup, making myself look haggard, and used a little shadow under my eyes to simulate sleepless nights. I walked slowly, clutching my pregnant belly, looking so fragile and weak that anyone would pity me. Around Martha's casket, Tyler's relatives from Ohio were packed tightly. They whispered and gossiped about Martha's sudden death and Chloe's insanity. When I walked in, their probing stares locked onto me, but I ignored them all. My only target today was Tyler. Tyler was wearing a black suit, kneeling by his mother's casket. He played the grieving, devoted son perfectly. Tears streamed down his face, his sobs choking him. If I did not know his true face, I would have fallen for this act. Seeing me, Tyler stumbled up and rushed over to support me. "Lauren, you came. You are pregnant. Your health is so weak after that nightmare. Why did you not stay home? It hurts me to see you like this." I suppressed a shudder of disgust as his filthy hands touched me, but I quickly buried the revulsion, bursting into tears and leaning my head on his shoulder. "Tyler, I am so scared. Every time I close my eyes, I see those men. Mom is gone. Chloe has lost her mind. Why is our family going through this? If I had not gone downstairs that night, I would be the one in that casket. Tyler, I am terrified to be alone." Tyler held me tight, stroking my hair. He let out a sigh, a calculated, fake sigh full of scheme. "It is over now, honey. I am here. I will protect you and our baby. I will never let anyone hurt you again. The police are hunting them down. They will pay. I just hate myself for not being there to protect Mom and you." The mastermind was hugging me, cursing his own hitmen. I buried my face in his chest, smirking coldly. "But, Tyler, I am so exhausted. My mind is completely broken. I cannot focus on anything. The company has major projects needing urgent decisions. Partners are calling nonstop. But looking at the paperwork just makes me dizzy. I am so scared I am going to lose my parents' empire." Hearing me bring up the company on my own, Tyler's entire body seemed to jolt awake. He loosened his grip slightly and looked deep into my eyes. His gaze revealed a raw, undeniable thirst for power and money. "Lauren, you are pregnant and suffering from severe PTSD. The most important thing right now is resting and protecting the baby. Let me handle the company. I am your husband, the father of this child. I have to share this burden with you. Sign over the executive power of attorney to me. I will step in, handle operations, deal with the partners, sign the contracts. When you have the baby and recover, I will hand it all back to you. Trust me." The rat had walked right into the cage. He had no idea the power of attorney he was salivating over was already sitting in my designer handbag, and that it was a ticking time bomb. I hesitated, wiping my tears. But the board of directors is very strict. They won't easily accept someone new stepping in overnight. "I am afraid you will face too much pressure. You have been an engineer your whole life. You do not have corporate management experience. Do not worry about that. As long as I have your signed authorization, it is completely legal and official. Who would dare object? I am doing this so you can rest, so our family can be safe. Your health is worth more than gold to me right now." I looked at Tyler's face, masking my absolute disgust. He was dreaming of sitting in the CEO chair, gripping my company's finances so he could funnel my money to pay his mob debts. He thought I was an idiot, a weak woman easily manipulated. "If you say so, I trust you. Tonight, I will have Harrison bring the documents over. I will sign over operational and financial control to you. Help me get through this, please. Rest assured, I swear I will do a good job. I will not let you down. You just focus on resting. Your husband will take care of everything." The funeral dragged on in a miserable atmosphere, but between Tyler and me, it was a psychological war where he thought he was the victor. As Martha's casket was taken to the crematorium, I watched the flames rise, burning away the physical body of a viper. She died in disgrace, taking a horrific truth to the grave. As for her daughter, Chloe, she was currently strapped to a bed in the state psychiatric facility, screaming and tearing at her own flesh whenever she saw a man. That punishment, to me, still felt too light. That afternoon, at my Tribeca penthouse, Tyler arrived looking exhausted, but with sharp, eager eyes, searching for Harrison, who had prepared the documents. I sat on the sofa, holding a fountain pen, my hand visibly trembling as I signed my name across the contracts. Tyler stood right beside me, his breathing heavy, his eyes locked onto the tip of my pen. When I stamped the official corporate seal on the final page, Tyler practically snatched the folder from my hands. Tyler, I am handing my parents' legacy over to you. Please be careful. The market is volatile, and we have a few short-term corporate loans coming due soon. Make sure you check the ledgers. Do not worry about a thing. Now that I am in charge, I will handle all the cash flow and loans smoothly. Tyler hurriedly made an excuse that he needed to get to corporate headquarters immediately to assess the situation and call an emergency meeting with the department heads. He had no clue that the power of attorney came with a series of complex legal addendums drafted by my late father's elite legal team. His operational control was nothing but a hollow shell. All major cash reserves and fixed assets had already been frozen by me and transferred into untouchable blind trusts. Even better, I had deliberately pushed a series of fabricated high-value vendor contracts with immediate due dates into a portfolio that the acting CEO was personally liable for. When the penthouse door clicked shut, I stood up, walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, and poured myself a warm glass of milk. Harrison stood behind me, smirking. Lauren, the fish took the bait. He thinks he hit a gold mine, but he just hugged a financial grenade. Sal Russo's deadline for the $5 million is tomorrow. Let us see how our new CEO pays them off when the corporate accounts are effectively gutted. I took a sip of milk, my eyes cold as I watched the busy New York traffic below. Let him gloat for one night. Tomorrow, the real show starts. Tyler, the price for selling out your wife and child is going to be much steeper than you could ever imagine. You wanted to pave the way for the mob to enter my house? Now I will let them walk right into your office, and we will see how you survive. Things were playing out exactly as I had orchestrated. Tyler was currently drunk on power in the CEO suite of my company. He put on a custom-tailored suit, puffed out his chest, and strutted around like a king, completely lost in his delusion of wealth. He thought my signature was a skeleton key to a vault that would solve his massive mob debt. He did not know that the second he left my penthouse, I initiated the final move to lock off his only escape route. Criminals always leave a trail, and for greedy but short-sighted people like Martha and Chloe, the evidence is usually in plain sight. Yesterday afternoon, after finishing the autopsy paperwork, the police released Martha's personal belongings. Tyler was too busy preparing to take over my company, so he gave me permission to collect them. Among those morbid items was the exact thing I was looking for: Martha's smartphone. The screen was cracked in the corner, likely from when she dropped it during her psychotic break before biting her tongue. I brought the phone back to my penthouse and placed it on the cold glass table. Martha was a rural woman who had only recently learned how to use a smartphone. She loved to brag and keep receipts to control people. I was absolutely certain that the entire filthy negotiation between her, Tyler, and Sal Russo was saved on this device. The only issue was the passcode. Harrison arrived at my penthouse immediately after my call. He was not alone. He brought a young guy with thick glasses and a backpack full of tech gear, a dark web data recovery and cybersecurity hacker Harrison had sourced. Without wasting words, I pushed the phone toward the hacker. I told him to bypass the security and recover every deleted text, photo, and voice memo from the last month. Money was no object. The hacker got to work. Complex lines of code scrolled rapidly across his laptop. The penthouse was so quiet I could hear my own heart beating. I leaned back on the sofa, fingers interlaced. Extracting evidence from this phone was the killing blow. My statement to the police about overhearing them was just circumstantial. Tyler could hire an expensive defense lawyer and claim I was paranoid or lying. I needed black and white proof, ironclad evidence, so that when I dragged him into the light, he would have no room to beg. Lauren, drink some water. You have not slept in days. You look pale. Let the kid and me handle this. With today's tech, nothing is ever truly deleted forever. I nodded, taking the glass but not drinking. My mind was hyper-focused. After about 2 hours, the hacker hit the enter key hard and looked at me, a victorious gleam in his eyes. He had successfully bypassed the encryption and restored the data from iMessage, Telegram, and the deleted photos folder. He hooked up an HDMI cable and mirrored it to the massive living room TV. My hands clenched into fists as the first messages popped up. It was an iMessage thread between Martha and Tyler, sent on the exact afternoon he was supposedly at JFK flying to Chicago. The words on the screen were so cold-blooded and evil it felt like reading a cheap horror script. Mom, I put the sedatives in your vanity drawer, the white bottle. Just 5 drops and she will be out cold. Make her dinner tonight and force her to drink it. Make sure she is completely knocked out before you call Sal's guys. Do not worry. I have it all planned. I just finished making the broth. Chloe and I will make her eat it. Will the drug hurt the baby? Sal's guys said they play rough. What if she dies? If she dies, she dies. Makes things cleaner. If she miscarries, even better. I never wanted that kid anyway. It is a girl. She will just take her mother's last name. Make sure you tell the guys to get a clear shot of Lauren's face on video. Once I have that video, I fly back tomorrow, and she will have to get on her knees and hand the company to me. My debt to Sal is due. They are going to kill me. I have no way out, Mom. Do this right. Oh, my poor son. Leave it to me. After this, we kick her out. I will find you a new wife to give you a son. I wired the thugs $2,500 up front. I will pay the rest after. I told Chloe to set up the camera on the dresser. I read every single word. Pure revulsion churned in my stomach, making me want to vomit. Tyler's cowardice had breached the limits of humanity. He did not just want to humiliate me and steal my money. He was cold-blooded enough to let cartel thugs murder me and his unborn child. Marriage, loyalty, humanity, none of it existed to him. I was just a poker chip to pay off his gambling debts. You son of a bitch, Harrison spat. Lauren, this is ironclad. Conspiracy to commit murder, extortion, racketeering. Hand this to the FBI or NYPD, and Tyler is going away for life. It did not stop there. The hacker opened a recovered Telegram voice memo. It was a call between Tyler and someone named Boss Sal. The audio blasted through the TV speakers. Tyler's voice sounded pathetic and cowardly. Sal, please give me a few more days. I have the plan set for tonight. Your boys just walk into the estate. My mom will leave the door open. Just have them do my wife and get it on video for me. Tomorrow morning, I get her signature on the asset transfers, and I will wire $6 million in cash straight to your accounts. Please do not touch my company right now. You better listen to me, Tyler. Sal's voice was gravelly and menacing. My boys do not usually do this sick blackmail shit. But since you cried like a bitch, I am sending them to help you out. $5 million in debt plus $1 million interest. Total $6 million. You miss by 1 day, I send someone to chop off your arm. Tonight, my boys will have some fun with your CEO wife. The audio ended. I closed my eyes. There was no more doubt. Every filthy corner of their plan was exposed. They treated me like meat to clear a debt. I opened my eyes and looked at Harrison. My voice was as cold and sharp as a freshly sharpened sword. Harrison, copy all this data onto 3 separate flash drives. Store them in maximum security vaults. Do not hand this to the police just yet. If we do, they arrest him immediately. That is too easy. He just goes to a cell and sits in fear. I do not want him to just go to prison. I want him to taste absolute, bottomless despair. The feeling of being pushed to the edge of a cliff with no one to save him. The feeling of being hunted by the very mobsters he hired. You want to use Sal Russo to punish him? Yes. Sal's guys are expecting $6 million from him tomorrow. Tyler thinks taking my CEO chair means he can easily pull the cash. He has no idea the massive trap I set for him at corporate. When he fails to pull a single cent, the mob will tear him apart. I am going to stand back and watch the animals eat each other until his spirit is completely broken. Only then will I drop this evidence and nail his coffin shut. I looked out over the city skyline. Dark storm clouds were rolling in again. Tyler, you lit this fire. Now you are going to burn in it. Your glorious days as CEO are going to be the stepping stones straight down to the 9th circle of hell. On the morning of the 3rd day after Martha's funeral, Tyler officially strolled into the headquarters of my national distribution network. He was dressed flawlessly, his hair slicked back, exuding arrogance. To him, the company, with its dozens of branches, hundreds of employees, and inventory worth millions, was now in the palm of his hand. He thought my signature was his golden ticket, but he had no idea that 2 days prior, I had secretly convened with my entire executive board, the CFO, the chief accountant, and the head of legal. These were loyal veterans who had built the company with my father. I gave them one specific mission: build a financial labyrinth right inside corporate to welcome the new CEO. Tyler sat smugly in the leather chair in my office. His first move was not to review operations, but to pick up the phone and call the chief accountant, Sarah. Sarah, bring me the balance sheets for our operating accounts immediately. Also, prep a wire transfer for $6 million to a personal account I will email you. This is a payment for a new strategic partner I just closed. Do it right now. It has to clear this morning. Tyler barked orders like a tyrant. He thought corporate funds were his personal ATM. He was desperate to pump that $6 million to Sal Russo to save his hands and his life. 15 minutes later, Sarah walked in, holding a thick binder. She maintained a calm, professional demeanor exactly as I instructed. Mr. Hawthorne, I have checked the ledgers. Currently, the balance across all our operating accounts is exactly $200,000 to maintain daily logistics. We do not have $6 million in liquidity to wire as you requested. What did you say? 200,000? This is a national network, and you are telling me we only have 200 grand? Are you joking? Where is the cash? Where are the reserve funds? Where is last month's revenue? Tyler slammed his fist on the desk and shot up, his eyes bulging. He was losing it. 6 million was his life or death number. Sir, as per the direct orders of CEO Lauren Kensington prior to transferring her authority, all revenues, profits, and reserve funds totaling over $30 million were transferred into a frozen blind trust at an international bank. The purpose is to act as collateral for a massive import project at the end of the year. The terms of this trust are strict. No one, not even Lauren or you as her proxy, can withdraw funds before the 6-month maturity date unless authorized by a unanimous vote from the board of directors and the guarantor bank. This was listed in the addendum attached to your power of attorney. You can review it here. Sarah placed the power of attorney and its addendum on the desk. Tyler's hands shook as he flipped the pages. Seeing the airtight legal clauses, woven like a spiderweb, locking up every cent of corporate liquidity, the blood drained entirely from his face. He realized he was holding a massive empire but could not extract a single penny. But my trap did not end there. Furthermore, Mr. Hawthorne, the addendum clearly states that the acting CEO assumes personal liability for resolving any short-term corporate debts that mature during their tenure. Today, we have 3 vendor contracts with international suppliers that are due. Total value, $4.5 million. Because corporate accounts lack liquidity, legal requires that you, as the acting CEO, use personal collateral or secure outside funding to settle this debt by 5 p.m. to prevent the company from being sued and having our assets seized. What? $4.5 million in debt? Why am I personally liable? I am just the acting CEO. Where is Lauren? Call Lauren right now. Tyler screamed in the office like a trapped animal. He grabbed his cell phone and frantically dialed my number. I was comfortably lying on my plush bed at the Tribeca penthouse, sipping chamomile tea. I let it ring for a long time before slowly answering. I forced my voice to sound weak, exhausted, and faint. Hello, Tyler? I am on an IV drip. The doctor says I am having a severe nervous breakdown. Why are you calling so urgently? Lauren, what is going on? What blind trust? What $4.5 million in debt? Why is there no cash? Why did you make me personally liable? Are you setting me up? Setting you up? What are you talking about? I started crying through the phone, perfectly playing the wounded wife. Tyler, I told you before I stepped down. The market is tough. I had to lock the funds to secure the winter project. As for those short-term debts, I trusted your abilities. You are an engineer. You have business connections. I thought you could easily secure a bank loan to float the company for a few months. I handed my entire legacy over to you. I trusted you. Now I am lying here sick. My mother-in-law is dead. Chloe is insane. And you are yelling at me about money? My head is splitting open. I cannot think right now. You are my husband. You are the CEO. You have to steer the ship. Please, leave me alone. The doctors will not let me stay on the phone. I hung up abruptly, popped the SIM card out, and tossed it aside. I knew Tyler was tearing the office apart in a blind rage. The noose was completely tight. He could not steal a single dime to pay the mob. And now, legally, he was on the hook for $4.5 million in ghost debt from trap contracts I had engineered. If he did not pay, my phantom suppliers would sue him into personal bankruptcy. Tyler Hawthorne, did you really think your cheap tricks could steal my empire? In the business world, you are a clueless amateur. You wanted to be CEO? Fine, sit in that burning chair and let us see how long you last before the mob burns you to ash. Sal Russo's deadline is tomorrow. I cannot wait to watch the show. On the morning of the 4th day, the atmosphere at my corporate headquarters was eerily tense. Through the security cameras and hidden audio bugs Harrison had planted in the CEO suite, I watched from my penthouse. Tyler sat behind the desk, his face gray, his eyes sunken with dark circles. After a sleepless night, he had been calling everyone he knew, his tone shifting from commanding to desperately begging for loans, but everyone politely declined. At exactly 10:00 00 a.m. Tyler's worst nightmare arrived. No appointment, no checking in at reception. 6 massive men, covered in neck tattoos and wearing tight black clothes, aggressively pushed open the glass doors of the CEO suite. Leading them was a bald man with a brutal scar slicing across his right eye. Sal the Scar Russo, the underground loan shark. The corporate security guards tried to intervene, but Tyler frantically waved them off through the intercom. He was too terrified to let this blow up in front of the employees. Sal walked in, casually pulled up a leather guest chair, sat down, and kicked his boots up onto the expensive mahogany desk. The 5 enforcers fanned out behind him, radiating pure menace. "Hello, Mr. CEO. Is the new chair comfortable? Today is the deadline. Where is my 6 million? Wire or cash? Say the word so my boys know what to bring back." Tyler shook violently, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. He stood up, hunched over, rubbing his hands together. "Boss Sal, please. Can you give me just a few more days? I took over the company, but my bitch of a wife played me. She locked all the funds in a blind trust. I am trying to unfreeze it. Give me 1 week. I will pay you back in full, principal, and interest." "Are you kidding me, kid? 1 week? When you borrowed money at the tables in AC, what did you promise? And the night I sent 5 of my boys to your estate to do exactly what you and your old lady hired us for, you said you would have the cash the next morning." I know. Things went wrong that night, Sal. My wife got away. The girl in the bed that your boys violated was my own sister. My mom went crazy and killed herself. My family is destroyed. Now my wife is faking a breakdown and trapping me with corporate debt. I cannot get a single cent out. Have mercy on me. Through the bug, I heard every pathetic, cowardly confession. He admitted to hiring thugs to rape his wife. He admitted his ties to the mob. This recording was the final puzzle piece to send him to federal prison. Fuck that. So the sister-in-law swapped with the sister? Sal spat. My boys said the room was dark. They saw a woman on the bed. They did their job. Who knew your family played such sick games? But I do not give a shit. I run a business. My boys did the work. You pay. I do not care who died or went crazy in your house. 5 million for the casino debt, 1 million for the hit job, 6 million total. If you do not have the money, brace yourself. With a nod from Sal, 2 massive enforcers lunged forward, grabbed Tyler's arms, and slammed him face down onto the mahogany desk. Another thug pulled out a gleaming hunting knife and slammed it into the wood, just millimeters from Tyler's trembling fingers. Tyler screamed, tears and snot pouring down his face. "Sal, please, do not cut my hands off. I beg you. Give me 3 days. No, 2 days. I will sell my shares. I will borrow from other sharks to pay you. I swear to God." "Listen to me, you little rat," Sal growled. "I am giving you exactly 48 hours. By the end of the day after tomorrow, if 6 million is not in my account, I am not taking your hands. I am going to skin you alive and dump you in the East River. And I am going to take that 4K video of my boys running trains on your sister and leak it to every single one of your corporate partners. Let us see how you play CEO then. Remember, 48 hours. Sal slapped Tyler hard across the face a few times, then signaled his men to let him go. The mobsters casually walked out, leaving Tyler crumpled on the floor like a crushed worm. He wailed in absolute despair, clutching his head and banging his forehead against the hardwood floor. He was backed into a dead end. Corporate assets frozen. Mob debt hanging over his neck. A ticking death clock. Sitting at my computer, I took a sip of tea. The taste was bitter, but the aftertaste was incredibly sweet. Tyler had reached the absolute bottom of humiliation and terror, but it still was not enough. In 48 hours, when the mob's deadline expired, I would pull the net. I was going to call an emergency board meeting. I would invite the NYPD. I would show him that the woman he tried to drug and destroy was the one pushing the button to send him straight to hell. The 8-hour countdown finally bled out. That morning, a sudden rain hit New York. The sky was as bleak and gray as Tyler's future. I stood before the full-length mirror in my penthouse, carefully applying a deep, powerful red lipstick. I wore a pristine, custom-tailored white power suit. Today was not a normal work day. Today I was going to war. Today, I was driving the final nail into the coffin of that monster's life. I rested a hand on my pregnant belly and smiled a razor-sharp smile. Mommy and you are going to see a great show. In the grand boardroom of the company, major shareholders, executives, and department heads were fully assembled under an emergency summons from Tyler. Through the cameras, I knew exactly what he was attempting. Cornered, unable to borrow a dime or steal from the company, he was going to use this meeting and my absence to declare me legally insane. He wanted the board to strip my chairmanship and grant him total power to liquidate assets to pay his debt. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Tyler began, sweating profusely. "Thank you for coming. As you know, my family suffered a horrific tragedy. My mother passed away. My sister is institutionalized. My wife, Lauren, due to the extreme trauma, is no longer mentally stable. She is in isolation. She signed over executive power, but in her manic state, she locked up our operating funds in blind trusts. I urgently request that the board vote to temporarily strip Lauren of her chairmanship and grant me full legal authority to liquidate select assets to stabilize the company." "Tyler, we are very sorry for your family's loss," one of the senior board members said. "But stripping the chairwoman is a massive move. Your power of attorney is temporary. We cannot liquidate assets without speaking to Lauren directly." "You do not understand. She is crazy," Tyler shouted, his voice cracking. "Her psychiatrist says she is having paranoid delusions. If you do not vote today, the company will default. We will all lose everything. You have to trust me, I am her husband." Just as he was screaming, playing the devoted husband trying to save the empire from his insane wife, the heavy double oak doors of the boardroom swung wide open. The loud crash silenced the room. All eyes snapped to the door. I walked in, taking long, confident strides, radiating absolute authority. Behind me was Harrison, my elite legal team, and out in the hallway stood men in plain clothes whose true identities Tyler did not yet know. I walked straight to the head of the table where Tyler was standing. The blood vanished from his face. He looked at me like he had seen a ghost, stumbling backward until he hit the projector screen, his mouth opening and closing without a sound. I flashed a perfect, flawless smile and swept my sharp gaze across the shareholders. "Apologies for the delay, everyone. I heard someone was spreading rumors that I was insane and trying to hijack the empire my parents built. Tell me, do I look like a woman suffering from paranoid delusions? Lauren, are you okay?" A board member asked. "Tyler said you were severely traumatized and in isolation." I smirked, tilting my chin toward Tyler. "You have been lied to. The man standing before you is not a dedicated CEO. He is an addict drowning in gambling debt, a coward, a mastermind of attempted murder and extortion, currently backed into a corner by the mob. He called you here today to steal your money to pay off loan sharks. Lauren, what kind of crazy nonsense are you saying? You really are insane," Tyler panicked. "Security. Get her out of here, she needs her medication." I stepped forward and delivered a devastating slap right across Tyler's face. The strike was so hard it sent him crashing down into the chairman's seat. The entire boardroom gasped in shock. I pulled a USB drive from my bag and slammed it onto the glass table. "Harrison, hook this up. Let everyone here and our special guests outside see the true face of this man." Harrison plugged the drive into the laptop. The massive screen instantly lit up with bank statements from Atlantic City casinos. Signed IOUs in Tyler's name for $5 million to Sal Russo's syndicate. Outraged whispers erupted from the shareholders. But that was just the appetizer. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why he owes $5 million. He gambled away our funds. And when the mob came for his life, he came up with a brilliant plan. Harrison played the audio file. Tyler and Martha's voices echoed through the boardroom, discussing spiking my bone broth, leaving the door open for thugs, getting it on video to extort the company. Then came the recording of Tyler begging Sal Russo, admitting to the hit job that ended up destroying his own sister. The boardroom exploded. Executives slammed their hands on the table, pointing at Tyler, cursing him. Disgust was etched on the faces of the older board members. Tyler shrank into the chair, clutching his head, sweating profusely. He shook violently, mumbling denials. No, it is not true. Do not believe her. That audio is deep-faked. She set me up. Lauren, you are evil. You just want all the assets. Set you up? I leaned in close, planting my hands on the desk, forcing him to look me in the eye. Do you want me to play the security footage from yesterday? The one where Sal Russo and his thugs pinned you to this very desk with a hunting knife? Where you begged for time so you could scam these board members into selling assets to save your own skin? I handed all this evidence to the NYPD last night, Tyler. You are out of moves. Hearing NYPD, Tyler's eyes rolled back. His breathing stopped. He knew the net I had woven had finally cinched shut. There was no escape. The chaos in the room peaked. Tyler scrambled up, trying to bolt for the door. But before he took 3 steps, the doors opened again. 5 NYPD detectives in tactical gear walked in, holding a warrant. "Everyone stay where you are. We are the NYPD." "Who is Tyler Hawthorne?" I crossed my arms and nodded toward the trembling man in the corner. "There he is." "Detectives. Our puppet CEO, Tyler Hawthorne. You are under arrest, based on verified evidence and the complaint filed by Mrs. Kensington. We are executing a warrant for conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault, conspiracy to commit sexual assault, extortion, wire fraud, and illegal gambling. Put your hands behind your back." The detective's voice was a death sentence. Tyler collapsed entirely, falling to the carpeted floor. He crawled toward the detectives, clasping his hands, begging, "Officers, I am innocent. I did not kill anyone. It was my mom. Yes, my mom did it all. She hated my wife. She called the mob. I was out of town. I did not know. And the debt Sal Russo tricked me. Please let me go. Lauren, tell them, you know I love you. I would never do this to you." His cowardly attempt to blame his dead mother disgusted the entire room. A man willing to throw his dead mother under the bus to save himself. "Love me?" I stepped slowly toward him, looking down at his tear-streaked, pathetic face. "You loved me with a bowl of spiked broth? You loved me by opening my bedroom door to 5 cartel thugs? Tyler, the audio analysis is done. Your mom is dead. Your sister is permanently institutionalized. All of it is karma for your actions. Do not drag the dead to cover your crimes. It is pathetic." Realizing nothing could save him, Tyler lunged forward, grabbing the hem of my trousers, sobbing uncontrollably, abandoning every shred of dignity. "Lauren, please, I am begging you. Think of the baby. Our child cannot be born with a father in prison. Have mercy. I will leave with nothing. I will disappear. Just drop the charges." I stepped back, dusting my trousers as if a cockroach had touched them. I smiled, my eyes as cold as glacial ice. "You are mistaken, Tyler. My child will be born to a strong, wealthy, and proud mother. She does not need a gambling, murderous coward for a father. I will teach my daughter to scrub her hands of your filthy bloodline. As for leaving with nothing, you do not have that luxury. You are leaving with a federal prison sentence." The detective signaled. 2 officers yanked Tyler up. The cold, metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut around his wrists echoed in the room. To me, it was a symphony. "Tyler Hawthorne, you have the right to remain silent." Before being dragged out, Tyler looked back at me. There was no more begging in his eyes. Only the absolute, psychotic despair of a man who knew his life was over. "Mrs. Kensington, thank you for your cooperation," the lead detective said. "Good news. Using the timestamp and location data you provided, our SWAT team raided Sal Russo's compound this morning. Sal and the 5 men involved in the home invasion are all in custody. They will face justice." I nodded in thanks. The net had caught everyone. From the mastermind to the foot soldiers, everyone was paying the price. Tyler was paraded through the corporate hallways, past hundreds of employees glaring at him with disgust. He hung his head, dragging his feet toward the police cruiser waiting downstairs. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the cruiser pull away into the Manhattan traffic. The rain had stopped. The sky was brightening. My chest felt incredibly light. The cancer named Tyler Hawthorne had been surgically and permanently removed from my life. 6 months later, I was heavily pregnant, in the final weeks of my 3rd trimester. Wearing a black maternity dress and a light cashmere coat, I walked into the visitation room at Rikers Island. The air was thick with the smell of mildew, cold concrete, and despair. I did not come here out of pity or lingering affection. I came to strip away the absolute last shred of hope from the man who tried to kill me. Sitting behind the thick plexiglass, I waited. The heavy steel door opened, and 2 guards brought in an inmate. I almost did not recognize him. Tyler, the handsome engineer, the arrogant CEO, was now a hollow shell. His head was shaved, his skin sickly pale, his body gaunt. The orange jumpsuit hung off his skeletal frame. His hollow eyes lit up desperately when he saw me. He lunged for the phone on the wall, pressing his sunken face against the glass. "Lauren! Lauren, you came! I knew it! I knew you still loved me. Look how beautiful you are. How is our baby? You came to tell me you are dropping the civil suit, right? My lawyer said if you show leniency, I might get parole." I picked up the receiver, my face totally blank. I looked at him slowly, evaluating his misery. "Love you? Tyler, have you been in here so long your brain rotted?" I did not come to save you. I came to show you the completed puzzle of your own brilliant plan. The smile vanished from Tyler's face. His hand shook. He backed away slightly. What? What are you talking about? Remember that stormy night? The night you sat in Chicago waiting for your mom's text? Your sedatives were good, but I bit my own tongue to wake up. And do you know what I did? I smiled viciously. I knocked Chloe out. I stripped her naked, threw her on my bed, and locked the door. Your thugs, Sal's boys. They executed your contract perfectly. They violated your precious sister. They filmed the whole thing in 4K. Tyler's eyes went wide. His pupils dilated to the max. The phone almost slipped from his hand. He gasped for air. No, that is impossible. You swapped places? The girl was Chloe? You did that? You are a demon. You are a monster. A monster? I laughed out loud. Compared to the spiked broth and the 5 men you prepared for me, I simply returned to sender. Do you know what your mother saw when she kicked the door open the next morning? She saw her darling daughter shattered on the floor. She went insane from the humiliation and regret. She bit her own tongue and died right there on the carpet. Your mother's death, your sister's insanity, it was all brought on by you and her. Tyler let out an animalistic shriek. He slammed his fists against the reinforced glass, screaming like a lunatic. Kill me, you vicious bitch. You set me up from the start. Even the CEO chair was a trap. You think I would hand you my company that easily? I sneered. I locked up $30 million and left you an empty shell with a $4.5 million debt to face Sal Russo. By the way, I brought some news. Chloe is permanently committed to the state psychiatric center. Schizophrenia and severe psychosis. She will never recover. And Sal Russo's crew confessed to everything. My lawyers project you are getting at least 30 years. 30 years in here, Tyler. Enjoy the feeling of losing your mother, your sister, and your life. Lauren, I was wrong. Please. Think of the baby. It is my blood. Are you going to let her grow up knowing her mother sent her father to prison and killed her grandmother? My eyes flashed with fiery, unforgiving, absolute power. Do not ever speak of this child with your filthy mouth. My daughter will grow up believing her father died in a tragic car accident before she was born. Your cowardly, greedy bloodline does not deserve to be acknowledged. I will teach her to scrub you from her history. I just came to watch you break one last time. I stood up, adjusting my coat. Tyler, the play is over. I am walking out of here as a wealthy, powerful, and proud CEO. You can rot in this cage. Goodbye. I slammed the receiver onto the hook and turned my back. Tyler's agonizing screams and the sound of him pounding the glass echoed behind me, but I never looked back. I walked out the heavy iron gates of the prison. The bright sun hit my skin, warming the life growing inside me. A cool breeze swept away the dark resentment of the past. Karma had executed its justice perfectly. And I, a mother, a woman back to the edge of death, had stood up, crushed the demons, and reclaimed a brilliant life for myself. 1 month after Tyler was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison, I gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. As her first cry echoed in the delivery room, tears of pure joy soaked my pillow. I named her Serenity. I wanted her life to be exactly that, peaceful, clear, untouched by the deceit and cruelty of the world. On her birth certificate, the space for the father's name was left blank. That was my greatest gift to her. My company, after removing the cancer that was Tyler, expanded massively. My ruthless and decisive handling of the crisis earned the absolute respect of the board and Wall Street. They no longer saw me as a lucky heiress, but as a true titan of industry. I expanded our operations, tripling revenue in a year. I bought this penthouse, where I now stand holding my daughter, looking down at the glittering lights of New York City. To all the listeners out there, the horrific storm is behind me, leaving a priceless sky of peace. Looking back on the blood and tears, from a woman who almost blindly trusted a fake love to someone who had to tear off her own weak skin to survive, I learned something profound. Forgiveness is not always the answer. Sometimes, you must use a cold mind and the sharp edge of the law to clean up your life. I let go of the hate, not to forgive them, but to free my own soul. Women are taught to be docile, to endure, but endurance is only valuable when given to those who respect it. When your sacrifice is used as a stepping stone for bottomless greed, endurance is poison. Never let yourself be dependent financially or emotionally. Your greatest armor is not a man's promise. It is your financial independence and a sharp mind. If I had been weak and dependent, I would have been a shattered victim on that bed. Do not be afraid to be called calculating. Calculate to protect your blood, sweat, and children. Karma is real. Those who sow deceit and cruelty will pay with their freedom and their sanity. The spiked broth Martha served me became the grave of her entire family. Tyler is now counting the days in a concrete cell. If my story today touched your heart, if it gave you a bit of courage to stand up and protect yourself, please share this podcast. Someone out there might desperately need to hear it. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe to Whispers of May for more stories of life, survival, and justice. Every storm passes. After the torrential rain, the sky will always shine brilliantly. Wishing you all a cool head, a warm heart, and the proud independence to walk your own path. Goodbye, sending you all a warm embrace, and I will see you in the next episode.